Welcome back to Connecticut Yankee Sanity. Today's topic is Iran. I have some first-hand experience of the country which may be of interest to viewers following the current situation there. Before the Shah was ousted by the Ayatollah Khomeini in 1979, I traveled to Iran regularly as the representative of an American supplier of hospital equipment. It was a long time ago, but developments since have not been inconsistent with the character of the country as I observed it then. Smiley faces were rare and can hardly be more prevalent now. The present-day Islamic Republic of Iran, as it's now known, is undoubtedly a worse place. I used to stay at the upscale Intercontinental Hotel in Tehran. At check-in, the receptionist would hand me matches and a box of candles, so I'd have light in my room when the city's power grid took its daily nosedive. Otherwise, the place was five-star. One morning, my Iranian business agent and I were waiting to cross the street outside the hotel. A large Mercedes-Benz was stopped at the intersection under a red light, and behind it, an Iranian-made no-frills Paycan. Presently, its driver began letting in his clutch and rhythmically tapping the rear bumper of the Mercedes to urge its driver to get a move on, even though the light was still red. The driver flew out of the Mercedes, enraged, and a fistfight ensued. My agent explained afterwards that such traffic altercations were common. The guy in the Paycan was just in a rush and wanted to get the benzo out of his way. One may be forgiven, I guess, for wondering today whether this short-fuse impetuousness leading to aggression isn't a national character trait. The country's last Shah, or king, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, came to power in 1941 at the age of 21. Under his father, Reza Shah, neutral Iran had close economic ties to Nazi Germany and was considered hospitable to German agents. When Allied diplomatic pressure failed to convince Reza Shah to sever ties with the Nazis and expel German nationals from the country, an Anglo-Soviet force invaded to secure the oil wells and the Allies' supply route to Russia. The British packed the father off into exile, and the son, Mohammed, made his Faustian bargain with the victors. Although the new Shah was no less autocratic than most absolute rulers, he cultivated Iran's oil wealth and, following in his father's footsteps, worked to modernize the country. Iran, under his rule, became the world's second largest petroleum exporter. Here in the West, we marveled at his progressive leadership. Jimmy Carter even spent New Year's Eve with him in Tehran in 1977, lavishing praise. The Shah became a bit too heavy-handed, though, and that led to unrest and repression. He rationalized his police state tactics, saying, "I'll behave like the King of Sweden when the Iranians behave like Swedes." Unfortunately, they remained Iranians. The dudes in the Paycan and the Mercedes come to mind. And 2 years later, the Ayatollah led an Islamic revolution that toppled the Shah, ending the 2,500-year-old Persian monarchy. If today's regime is more easygoing or peace-loving, the mullahs are keeping it under their turbans. Some viewers may recall the 1980s Iran-Iraq War. It was an encounter worthy of a multi-sequel action movie. Saddam Hussein, fearing that the influence of Iran's Shiite Muslims might touch off a rebellion amongst his own majority Shiite population, decided to take advantage of the revolutionary chaos in Iran and give the Ayatollah a lesson he wouldn't forget. It wasn't his brightest move, but no one will accuse Khomeini, once his dander was up, of going easy on the Iraqis after the tide turned. The war lasted 8 years and cost the lives of 500,000 men. Iran has been an exporter of terrorism and a threat to its neighbors ever since. Iran today, newly funded under the vaguely named Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, aka the Iran nukes deal, cobbled together under Barack Obama in collaboration with our soft-headed European allies, has a thumbs up on nuclear development, for peaceful purposes, of course. Those pesky power outages I once experienced are to be a thing of the past. Officially anyway. In fact, the mullahs began violating the provisions of the nukes deal before the ink was dry, and are ramping up uranium enrichment beyond the agreed limits as I speak. That, in turn, will shorten the time needed to produce weapons-grade material. Why do this? Well, the current supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, who is not known for the sweetness of his disposition, sees his mission under the Constitution as promoting ongoing revolution in Iran and abroad to establish a world community as decreed in the Koran. One nation under the Prophet Muhammad with liberty and justice for, well, never mind that part. The world is a big place, though, and most of its inhabitants don't much care about Islam, so the mullahs have their work cut out for them, starting with exterminating Israel, bringing their Arab neighbors to heel, and of course, knocking off the U.S. and its recalcitrant president, who almost certainly hasn't studied the Koran and is consequently clueless. The Iranians will need weaponry, and what could be better than nuclear-tipped rockets? Mr. Trump's decision not to retaliate militarily against the nukes deal violations or the Iranians' recent shooting down of one of our drones, but to ratchet up the sanctions on the regime was wise on two levels. The president understands that sooner or later, Khamenei will run through the millions in frozen assets Mr. Obama repatriated to him, plus the pallets heaped with bonus cash he freighted in. Mr. Trump knows that the brutality and repression of the current regime make the Shahs look namby-pamby, and that the long-suffering Iranians are restive. Demonstrations calling for Khamenei's removal have already flared up. Tightened sanctions can only hasten the day when another revolution, this time against him and his mullahs, can succeed. Second, in accordance with the president's policy of keeping us out of unwinnable foreign wars, Mr. Trump showed restraint and a regard for human life, both ours and the Iranians. It's a sentiment unfortunately not shared by Mr. Khamenei. Iran, despite its rich ancient history, is probably never going to be a popular family vacation destination, much less a promising site for a Disney theme park, but it doesn't have to be a permanent hellhole. Mr. Trump has proven that economic pressure succeeds where feeble diplomacy and military might fail. Of the options open to us, sanctions are the best for neutralizing the situation. The Iranian people may then have a better chance for a better life, and the world for a peaceful solution, instead of another bloody Middle Eastern war. Thank you for watching. Please take a minute to click like, to subscribe, and to share the link with your friends. We'll see you next time when the topic will be global warming reconsidered.